I'll just be quoted £1,000 an hour, plus that I think, to do the brakes on that heap of shit. So I thought, fuck that, I'll do it myself. So, previous video, this car here, master cylinder is here, and you've got two outputs from the master cylinder, one for the front brakes, one for the back brakes. Then there's a bias because basically the front brakes are stronger than the back brakes, and those two outputs come down here, they come out of the wheel arch here, and they go along the chassis rail on this side, the chassis rail, and they both go all the way up here, and they go over all the subframe and the differential and all sorts of other shit. And there's a little block thing in the boot there where they go in there and they come up at a 90. You see those kind of pipes possibly there, they go into the boot, and this here, that's the ABS unit. So basically they go up into that and then they come out of that. So you've got one output for the rear, so that goes out there and that goes down there, and then there is a T-piece, and it's right underneath here, right above the rear subframe where you can't get to it, and then that tees off to the two back wheels, and that goes all across all the blooming drive shafts and all sorts of stuff, what's really a bit sketchy. And then you've got the front left, which basically goes down into that, comes out of that, goes over all the subframe and drive shafts and whatnot there, and that one will then come along the chassis rail here. But that one goes on the inside of the chassis rail next to the fuel rail, don't ask. Right, this side's actually better because it is more logical to go along the inside of the chassis rail, because then it can come up inside the engine bay. So that one comes up into a union inside the engine bay, and then from that union it then goes inside the engine bay along the inside of the chassis rail. There's a hole through the chassis rail, it comes through there and it comes out there, it goes into a little bracket, and then it goes to the rubber line to the caliper. Other side, and it goes out of there into there, over all that shit down there. Then that goes along the same run that the two what were kind of coming back down here, it goes along with them, but that's on this side of the chassis rail, so that's outside of the engine bay. And then that will then come in here. Well, it did come in here. It come in here next to the two what went into a little block through there, and then it goes over there and it goes up to the bracket there, and then into the wheel caliper. And then what you have is you have these covers here. This one goes at the front, and then this one here joins onto that. That goes at the back. That kind of covers that up down there, and it all sort of bolts onto the bottom of the chassis rail. Well, basically, three of the bolts at this end which hold it up here, they're all sheared off and took it off, so basically they need drilling out, otherwise the front just goes like that. And then at the back the same thing happened, so the back kind of goes like that. Also, above the drive shaft here where you need to go through that block, there is a diff cooler for the differential, right? And basically I don't need that because they only put it on a UK car, and basically it only works if you're doing more than 75 miles an hour and the temperature of the diff oil is over 110 degrees, which yeah, that's not going to happen very often. So basically it's a useless piece of shit that's in the way. So that there is that's that there in the bin pile to go to the bin, along with back cover there and that bracket there which was there up there with it. This one of these is the pump what was for that as well, which was also up there above the drive shaft in the fucking way as well. And on this thing here, that, yeah, that's the jack, right, that, well, that was under the car down there, coming out of that pump thing, and it basically was tied round under here, and then it goes up under here, and then it goes round there, and it goes back round there. I took that shit out and all. So what I did then is I basically got some new brake line, and I basically replicated what was there originally, and then I came to a problem, and that problem was well, it was that tray thing, as I explained. It won't hold up there and it won't hold up at this end. Then I looked at the spaghetti junction up there, And I thought, fuck this, I'm just going to delete the ABS. So I ripped it all out, and then I did this. So what I've done is master cylinder here. I've created all new brake lines. I've done some CAD here. This is cardboard aided design. This is a bracket which bolts onto existing bolts here. I've got to make a metal version of that. This here is a T, so basically for the front brakes which come out of that output at the back, because that's where it is, and that is basically a stronger piston that comes underneath there, goes into that T, and then this side of the T I've come here and I've gone round here and I've gone along the back of the firewall and I've pinned it in with these P-clips. So we go around the firewall, don't trip over the jack, and then we go down, and then what we've done is we've followed where the other one used to be, and we've come along here, you can see it there, and we've gone through that hole there, and I've come out of here and I've connected that up to that rubber line, and that is done. And then what I've done for the other one, rather than coming around the outside here, which is a stupid idea, basically I've come out of here and I've gone down the chassis rail, and well, it's here at the moment because there's no hole this side. So what I did is I took out the intercooler and intake piping and whatnot, and I got the drilling as far as I could get in. I drilled a pilot hole there, and that's not far enough down, but what that tells me is I can measure from that hole down to the chassis rail, so I know how far to drill down from that side. So then what I did is I come round this side, and yep, that's the hole there. It's not big enough yet, I need to get a step bit and drill that out to the right size, but it's in the right place. That's the bracket there where the rubber hose goes up to, and it will meet that one. But then we have a problem, and this is the problem. That's the union, and that's fucking rounded, and it's fucking tight, and I've tried every fucking method you can think of to try and get that out, and it's not coming out. And also when I did the back ones, well, they were both tight as well. What I need to do with those is I have to chop the pipe off of the union, and then I put a 6-point socket on the union, and then I put the biggest fucking breaker bar possible on that, and they did crank off, so they are off. And then to put those back on, right up here, yeah, right up there, in between all sorts of bits of subframe and suspension, there is basically a bracket what the kind of rubber line meets the union, and there's not anywhere to put your hand or the union wrench. So it took me a morning to do this side and a morning to do that side. That side, that included getting the thing off. This side, it was a morning to get the thread on the union to thread into the rubber pipe. Yeah, anyway, back to that problem. Actually, before we get to this problem, we need to address the back brakes. So what I have now done is I've come out of here at the front of the master cylinder, which is for the back brakes, and I've gone round here, I've gone over the firewall, and we've come back round here, and where that line for the front brake originally came up and met that union there, and then had that line go over there, which is obviously now the new line, I've basically used that remainder of that line, the new one I made though, not the old one. So basically I've gone into that union, so I've come around here, gone into that union, and I've gone along here in the same tray that the fuel lines are running in on the inside of the chassis rail. So basically on the other chassis rail over there, there's nothing. It's just one line here going to the back, and then instead of going all around there and all sorts of shit like that, basically I took the back off the back seat, as you can see, and that allows you to pull the back seat up. And then what I did is I drill a hole through there where the metal slopes up, which is basically somewhere around here, but obviously further in, and I bolted on that little T-piece, and then that line comes up to that T-piece, and then it comes out to this wheel here, and then it goes over there, over the sub, well, it's basically pinned to the subframe above the diff, so basically it don't go anywhere near the drive shafts, it don't need to go anywhere up there, and it don't go anywhere near the prop shaft. So basically it's in a good place. And that little T-fit in there, if I take this wheel off, I could reach it from here without even going underneath the car. Anyway, back to the problem at the front. There is a solution for that, and that solution I've been to hell for. Yeah, a shout out to Luke at the Z Centre. Basically, Z Centre sells loads of new and aftermarket parts for Nissan 300Zx's, and that is the place to go if you need anything. I've got these Hell Performance braided fuel lines. So basically, yep, this here, wherever it is, that's not coming out, which basically means what I did is I went on his website and I seen that was available, and I come out here and I saw if the little union had crank off, and it did at the bottom. So yep, that pipe's going in the bin, that's going on there, and then obviously I've got 3 more to go on there, there and there, which may happen, or I may leave that because I might be creating myself more work. Get off my wheel, you piece of shit. So what we got on the end of this goes onto here. It's all part of the same thing, through there, all part of the same thing. Goes round down here to a metal line. On the bottom of here there is a union, and this union is an 11mm, whereas all the other unions are 10mm. I don't know what the logic in that is, but there is no logic on this car whatsoever. So yeah, we're going to get that off. And I'll be honest here, I've already checked that this comes off before I went out and brought the braided fuel lines, brake lines. Somewhere there's a thing for that. Now the bloody line's actually in the way of the wrench, which is really clever, that. So I decided I'm also going to replace this little steel line that goes from there to there, because yeah, that's what happened to that when I turned the union. And also looking at the flare inside it, it looks like it's been flared backwards. Yep, that's that one. So we'll get these circlips out, all rusty as fuck, so yeah, we'll just spray them with the WD-40. There's another one down here somewhere. Yeah, and we'll leave that and hope for the best. Don't imagine this is best practice. Well, so it's, well, I'm not saying it's working, but it's getting there. Yep, that's out. Whoops. So this one, you come over here with a chisel, I'll whack it, and it's slightly moving. So that one there managed to chisel those out. This one here, you can't get an angle on it, but then well, it came out anyway with the pliers eventually. So what we've got to do now is find the hammer, because that somehow has to come out of there. So comes out of that and comes out of that. So that's new lines installed, got circlets back on here. These have got little plastic rings, which are a bit delicate, so you've got to be careful there. These have got a metal ring here, so that's a bit better. They don't actually slot into the doodah like the other ones did, but it has got an X header on it, so you can put a spanner on that to tighten the union at the same time. I'm going to have to find a spanner that size. And then there's like a little groove in here which the circuit goes through. Down there, same thing. Can't see it, you probably can. Comes with these little clips. I'm not entirely sure what you do with those. Yep, this is what your WD-40 is for. Perfect-ish. That's that in there. That side, bottom down there, I've got to get a spanner for that big nut. Got to find one, see what size it is. So I've not done that one up just yet. Same as that. So what I've got here now is a drill. But I've got this hole saw kit from Parkside because it's 25 quid for a step bit and this was 4 quid. And it's got 32, which is the smallest it's got, which may or may not be small enough. All I need to do now is get into it. Which we'll use a key, which I don't know what it's for. Yeah. Right. So we are in. So we've got that, which we go in the drill. And our hole saws, which that is the one I'll be using because that is the smallest. So yeah, self-explanatory, I think. Yeah, that. Yeah, it says that will go through there, lock into that, then that. We'll lock onto that. And we're not going to use a spanner for that because we can't be asked to find one. And then that will go in there. First, before we do any of that shit, what we need to do is we need to come up here. Now we need to, yeah, we cannot do that, but I think it should clear everything down there. I'm going to have to just pull this loom over a bit with something just to make sure. So there's a fucking problem. Yep, it's raining. See you in the morning. Well, that hole saw from Lidl, that shit didn't work. Borrowed one, and I've now got a hole, and it's a smaller hole as well. It's the right size. And that is fed through there. If we come down here, I put a little rubber bung in and I've come through, I've bent it round, I've flared it and I've connected it up there. So now we're done in here, so that can go back on. So I went ahead, did this side as well, and yes, that was knackered too. And Brucey bonus, I found the circlip which I couldn't find for the rear, because what I'd done is I put that one on top of another one there, and I've got two on there, and I was wondering why that wouldn't come off. So just put the wheel on full lock, and we're just doing a feel around behind here, make sure that none of that new hardline is going to go anywhere near the suspension or anything. It shouldn't go near it, which is all good. So we're on to the rears. So what we got for the rear is the replacement, so basically it just goes from there to there. So that's where I've already put a new line up to, so got to take that back off again. That comes into there. There's a circlip there, which no doubt's going to be a pain in the backside to get off. This does a little twisty weeny thing inside there for no reason whatsoever, and then goes into the caliper. That little metal line there is going to be knackered because all the other ones were. So yeah, get that off, make a new one of those, put that on. So because this has a bolt on here on these new versions, what you can do before you put the circlip on, you can actually put, because you can't move the wrench around the back there, what you could do with these ones is you could put the wrench on the union around the back, and you can get one of these and you can torque it up from this side. and that is very handy because it gives that something to torque against. You can slip off as well. There you go, nice and tight. Take the wrench off. Stuck there. Get that where it's supposed to go. Find what you did with the clip. Get your clip roughly in the right place. And this is the next problem because you can't get hammer in there. So what you have to try and do is hold that there so you don't lose it. Position something on there. Hopefully get it in without it missing. Yeah, what's going on? Yep, we are clipped in. So on this one I've opted to basically leave that little bit of steel hardline on because it seems on inspection alright, and the problem is where the other union goes into the caliper, the union's rounded off and they ain't coming out, and if I completely screw it up then that'll be a caliper. So at the moment that could just stay there, but the braided line is in. Yeah, connected there, connected there. So yep, done that side as well. Also managed to save that hard line as well because, well, I haven't tried to get it off, but I imagine it's not coming off very easily. So that's all the braided lines on. The only lines not replaced on this car, the hard line here and the hard line on the to the side. So next job, we come to the front of the car. We come to the master cylinder because that is filled up. Well, I wouldn't say filled up. it's kind of got some of the old brake fluid in, which is very old, like that. And I'm going to put new brake fluid in, and I don't want that going in my pipes. That is, at the moment, it's blocked off with a block of wood against the pedal, so it won't go into those pipes. Now what I could do is take the pipes off there and just piss it all on the floor, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to suck it all out with that. Yep, I'll take this little thing out of there to be able to get that in, and then we're going to put it in there. Yeah, that's why you don't buy drill bits from Lidl. Bitch. It's not how you normally deburr stuff, but I've got a flappy disc, so that'll do. it's bent a little bit further back than 90, but I actually wanted that, so not bothered. So I'm going to need a longer bolt because that won't go on, but fits. So there you go, bracket made. I found a longer bolt. Yeah, it's probably too long, but who cares? That is not going anywhere, which is basically the whole purpose of that bracket, stop that vibrating around or whatever. So what I need to do next is top that up and find the bleed nipples on the wheels, which I have no idea where they are, and then bleed the brakes. Oh yeah, and I should put that back as well or it won't work. And that. So what I need to do to bleed the brakes, well, first of all, to explain bleeding the brakes, this here, the master cylinder, I've topped up to the, well, just under the maximum. There is brake fluid in there, but because these are all new lines, basically that's blocked off at the moment until I squeeze the pedal. So there is no fluid in any of these lines here, any of those lines, any of those, or any of the lines going to the back of the car, which basically means they're full of air, that's full of liquid. So when you pump the brake pedal, what will happen is that air will have nowhere to go that way, because it's obviously all blocked off at the calipers. So what it will do is it will kind of come through the liquid and up to here, and the liquid will go down. So obviously you need to keep that topped up, and that will inevitably, in that word, create some kind of bubbles or air bubbles in the brake lines. So what you need to do is get those out. So what you do is you go over to the brakes. So basically you go the furthest away from the master cylinder first, which I know is that one, then the next furthest that one, then the next furthest that one, then back to this one. And what you do is you open up, each one's got a nipple on it. So basically there's a pair of nipples there and there, pair of nipples at the back, and then there's another pair of nipples at the front. So you open up the nipples in turn, there, and there, and pump the brake pedal, and basically brake fluid will come out of the nipple. But when you stop pumping the brake fluid, that will create some kind of a vacuum, which will then suck air back in through the nipple. So there are two methods, well, there's a few, but there's two main methods. The one method is basically you put a rubber line off the nipple into a container and submerge that into brake fluid, so when the vacuum sucks back, instead of sucking air, it sucks the brake fluid. Or the other method, if you can't be arsed with that, is you get one of these, which is basically a one-way valve. So what this does is it obviously allows the brake fluid to be pushed out and the air, but it doesn't allow the air to be sucked back in, hopefully. So that is what you get for your £5. If you want to pay £7.5, you also get a container with it, but guess what? I already got one, so don't need that. So this end here, this is the nipple here at the back here. Basically it's on another 10mm one of these. Put some WD-40 on that, leave that for a while, otherwise it's not going to come off. And then you put the little rubber hose over the nipple like that. Then this here is supposedly cramps around something to stop it falling off. I'm going to say that's the nipple, perhaps. Maybe I should have put that. So that doesn't work, because if you try to put it over there, you just get kink in there. So, you know, whatever. I'm not sure what that's for. And then that there will go into the container, just so that we don't make a mess on the ground, and basically any extra brake fluid can be reused, because I mean it's all going to be new stuff in here. Yep, that doesn't naturally want to do that. Maybe if we just turn that around a little, yeah, whatever. I might just be putting brake fluid on the ground. We'll just put that there, and this here, you're going to turn this apparently 1/4 of a turn. Yeah, that's working. So that should be the nipple open enough, don't really know, gonna find out. Gonna put you about there. Imagine you're gonna just fuck off somewhere. Whatever. Right, and then soon we're gonna do this without the car running. Gonna pump the brake pedal. So I thought I heard some squirty sound. I don't know if I did or not. Yes. So what we've got here, we've got brake fluid here. Well, it looks like piss, but what you can see, there's plenty of air here. So what I need to do is keep pumping that until that is basically a complete full flow, which basically means there's no air in the system. And then I can do up that bleed valve and then move over to the next one. So what we are looking for down here now is a brake line full of piss. Obviously there's a couple of bubbles there, but they can't go back in there because that one-way valve, but that there is pretty much a complete flow. So I'm going to just get a couple more just for good look and then call that one done. So what we do now is we are going to basically tighten that back up, remove that, yeah, right, whatever, right, and then that is gonna come off there eventually because that was for getting on there. So yeah, we'll get that off. There's a little dust cap we'll put back on. Dust cap here, back on there. Got a little bit of a spare fluid here, waste not want not. And I'm going to come round to the master cylinder, because then what's going to happen is that's gone down really low. So yeah, we should have kept an eye on that, but it's not gone down too low yet, because if that goes completely empty you are fucked. Right, and then you're doing it again. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to top that up to maximum. Next time hopefully it won't go down so much because it's kind of in the line now. So here's the bleeder valve here, here's the little rubber cap that does not want to come off. Yep, that's off. Yeah, that's nice and rusty. Yep, so while that soaks in, you see down there I've got the T, so basically it comes from the front and then it goes over there and it comes over here. It's obviously on this side, which basically means that side is further away from, it's the furthest away from the master cylinder. This is the next furthest away, which basically means now it's definitely all the way over there. It probably got here first, which basically means that this should happen a lot quicker and the front's even quicker, which means that fluid hopefully won't go down as much, but obviously we will keep an eye on it this time because that's sensible. Just going to leave that a little while and then we're going to get that on it. Hopefully it's going to crank off. Yeah, we'll go from there. So yeah, that cranked off, that's gone a 1/4 of a turn. So we'll go around here and we'll rinse and repeat. So gone down a little bit, we'll just top up a little bit. That's so. So we've got a full line, we've definitely got brake fluid down there. This is done. Nice. And this is not wasted. Because you wouldn't do this if you was like flushing something which already had some in. But as this is all new fluid, because basically I completely emptied it out, obviously I ain't gonna just throw it away because it cost me a tenner. So yeah, we can put you back in here. Yeah, well, slightly overfilled, that bit doesn't matter because it's going to be coming back out the fronts. So if you're wondering if this is comfortable, answer is fuck no. So this is a good time to hit that like, comment and subscribe button, just because. So both wheels off at the front on axle stands. Reason being is these tyres here, they're down to the cords on the inside because the car's got a lot of camber, and yeah, that's splitting now. That's not good. So these are going in the van. They're going off to get some new tyres. Gonna bleed the brakes and then come back with new tyres, wheels on. Hopefully jobs are good. And so we got a different bleed nipple on here. This one didn't even have a rubber cover. That one had a rubber cover. What's shall we say perished, and this here was loose because I've only turned it like that much and it was really easy to turn, so I reckon it'll probably turn back a whole quarter of a turn. But what they've got here is these bloody bolts right in the way of the spanner, but we're going to see whether that's turned enough to open it. Back in here, back on here. The good thing about being here is you can actually see the master, so you can see whether you've gone down too much there. Pedal feels quite hard, which is good. That was an interesting noise. I reckon that's the bottle fell off. Let's go find out. Yeah, that's the bottle fell off, and it's got brake fluid in it, and that's got some in it. Which, yeah, so that's kind of working, but what I wanted to obviously see is brake fluids in there, so I know it's come out of here and that full of brake fluid, and that's not quite full of brake fluid just yet, but we're getting there. Right, hopefully that's not going to fall off again. So now that's done. Basically the nipple wasn't open enough. It's really awkward to do with that, so tighten it back up. I might do it with an actual socket. So just to make sure, I've just tightened that up with a little 10mm socket there. So, well, I'll have to keep an eye on it and make sure it don't leak, but I'm pretty sure that's fine, otherwise we'll need a new nipple. So around to the last one, that has gone full 90 again. It was very loose, and there's limitation to how far you can turn that, and it's windy this side and that bottle might not stay there. But anyway, let's crack on. Yeah, that squirting sound is a good sound. That's going down there, that's good. We'll just make sure it's put all of it out. Just go and have a look what's happened. Bottle ain't fell off, I don't think. Oh, that's close. Bottle's definitely got fluid in it, that's good. And yeah, I think that is full. So a couple more just for look. Pedal feels as a pedal should feel, which is good. Feels nice and hard, she said. So that should be doing its job. Yeah, that's definitely full of fluid, and there's no bubbles in it. That's got fluid in it, which basically means we are working. I'm going to do that one up with a socket again because that felt rather slack. Waste not one, no, out. Put you in here. Oops, just need a little bit out of the main bowl to top that up. Literally fuck all amount basically. Yep, we are on the maximum. So put that down there instead of spilling it on the fucking car. That can go back on. And that can come off. Make a mess down there. We'll just make sure we are tight there. And I think we're done. So we'll just make sure we're at neutral. And yeah, battery's flat. I'll just charge that. New tyres. Well, wheels on with the new tyres, batteries back in, brake lines on, master cylinder topped up, everything's bled, fingers crossed. So let's see whether it's charged up, and check that. See how it feels. Yep, that still feels hard, that's good. That is definitely not in gear. See how the brake pedal feels. Well, I've got it down off the drive. The brakes, they work, but I think it's because the discs are very rusty because they ain't been used for a while. So I'm gonna have to drive it to deal with that problem and blade it properly, but we'll find out. But all I'm gonna have to do is just keep an eye on the levels in there. I mean, that's still on max, good. Anyway, I'm going to end this video here, so thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. So there you go, car on the road, not the oily driveway, and that represents so much car back on the road. Anyway, end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.